Look, detectives combing through the hood looking for a corpse. Draco hitting. I don't think your body can endure the force. I whipped the fish up with a fucking hanger or a fork. Told that bitch, go ahead, sniff what you want. There's plenty more to snort. I had an outstanding warrant for a short. Turned myself in, rocking Louis and all my jewelry. I wore the court.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 211, Hard to Kill. We have Master Sergeant John Dailey, born Loudoun County, Virginia, joined Marine Corps 17 years old, 21 years active duty, USMC, Master Sergeant, Force Recon, MARSOC OG, team leader of Detachment 1 in the 1st Marine SOCOM unit, part of the stand-up of the infamous Marine Raiders, multiple deployments downrange to Afghan and Iraq, and author of the classic Marine literary masterpiece, Tough, Rugged Bastards, which is a memoir of a life in special operations. Currently resides in Hubert, North Carolina with his wife, Tracy, and is the most dangerous, tough, rugged bastard to ever be confused for a famous golfer. Master Sergeant John Dailey.
Hey, Nick, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So if you could, I'm going to step out of the screen a little bit. If you could just give us, tell us about your early days in the Marines, man. Tell us, maybe the whys and what got you to, pump out and join the gun club, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got to start off with the fact that my opinions don't represent my current employer at Marine Special Operations Command or SOCOM or anyone else. But I knew from a very early age I was going to join the Marine Corps. I mean, I was a tiny little kid, so I needed to do something badass, and decided early on that that's what it was going to be. And took a lot of kidding, got my ass kicked a lot for telling guys I was going to join the Marine Corps, but it was something that really always stuck with me. And by the time I made it to high school, I was raring to go. So I signed up as soon as they would let me. Convinced my parents to sign.
It's been rough. I know it was rough for me.
Yeah, yeah. My dad not so much, but my mom, it was a challenge.
Gotcha.
But she knew I was going to go, anyway. So graduated high school and got on the first thing smoking out of West Virginia for Paris Island, South Carolina.
Yep.
And I loved it. There's obviously good times, bad times, but I loved almost all of it. Just
You ate up boot camp, huh?
yeah, even boot camp. Boot camp. I think one of the lessons that, or one of the things that I kind of saw behind the curtain a little bit, and
Yep.
kind of realized that
Oh, the game. Yeah.
it's a game, and once you realize that, then you can kind of sit back and enjoy
That is the
yourself.
trick, is like telling the other recruits, like, listen, this is a game. We can handle this. Some of them, like, they can't. They don't understand.
No, absolutely not. No, there was, yeah, I remember distinctly one of waking up one night, and my rack mate was a guy from Puerto Rico named Del Monte. And Del Monte was so down on himself because he had like fucked up on drill or something. And he was like literally not, people didn't kill themselves at the rate that they do nowadays, but he was almost suicidal. But I woke up and looked out of the rack, and he was sleeping on the floor. And I'm like, Demonte, dude, what the hell are you doing? He's like, I'm a piece of shit. I don't deserve to sleep in a rack, because he had screwed up in close order drill. And
Oh, the drill got
I'm
him.
like, yeah, yeah. And he didn't deserve to sleep in a rack or have a pillow. So I'm like, Del Monte, man, we gotta we gotta have a little talk.
What was your strong point in boot camp, man? Would you like the best? Was it shooting, or were you a drill guy?
Um, I did. I'd grown up shooting, so I really enjoyed that. Because I knew that I was gonna join the Marine Corps, I had kind of planned my life around preparing. So, I wrestled in high school, ran cross
Oh, nice.
country and track, and just so I was pretty fit, pretty
Being a wrestler
fast.
definitely keeps you, in shape and ready for something like this. Your
Absolutely,
cardio.
yeah. And plus, I really, really sucked at basketball. So that was wrestling was the only. I'm
That was the
5'7",
route.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was the only winter sport that I had in me.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna go into like a couple questions. When it comes to ranks, What was where do you think you were the most effective? And maybe talk to me. Tell me. We'll start with that. Tell me what was your favorite ranker where you're most effective.
Ah, man, that's a hard one. I think, I remember distinctly being a team leader at Force Recon as a staff sergeant and
Okay.
talking to I don't know if he was a gunny, mentor of mine and telling him that, I could not imagine anything better than being a staff sergeant, team leader in Force Recon. I if they would have let me stay there, I probably would have, But as things happen, I got promoted to gunny and became a platoon sergeant for a Force Recon platoon. And once you do that, you quickly realize that the leadership, having the opportunity to impact the whole platoon instead of just a handful of guys is pretty amazing.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I probably gunny. I mean, I think that's probably the coolest rank that the Marine Corps has. Um, so that was probably my favorite.
Well, as a gunny, you really gotta you're the go-between between like your OIC or your officer to the guys. Talk to me about maybe as a gunny dealing with I don't want to say bad leadership, but maybe a young officer that isn't as experienced, then you have to kind of delineate the maybe you get some bad word or something you don't agree with, and you got to pass it to the guy. You know what I'm trying to say? How would you
Yeah,
handle something like that?
yeah. I tell you what, I didn't always handle it well. I was you know Force Recon guy, tend to be relatively cocky. I'd kind of always been a little bit cocky. Um, but as, by the time I picked up gunny, I had, numerous deployments under my belt,
Salty.
all non-combat deployments. This was before then. But, the when I became a platoon sergeant, the captain that I got as a platoon commander was overall the good guy,
Hmm.
but made some decisions that I didn't agree with, and
Gotcha.
it was a steep learning curve for him and for me. As a staff sergeant, you can sit back and poke fingers at
Yeah.
the officer who's all fucked up. As a gunny, you really need
Step
to
in, right? Yeah.
kind of bring him under your wing a little bit and
Behind closed doors, maybe.
realize
Yeah.
yeah and realize that once the decision's made, the decision's made and it's your job to make sure the lads carry it out.
Absolutely. I think that's something that I got out as a corporal, so I'm still in the underground. So when it comes to bad word or bad leadership, we don't really see anything past the sergeant and the staff sergeant, so we don't really see the levels. How, I'm, it's important to me because I never really saw behind the curtain when it comes to that. When an officer shows his true colors to the guys, and everyone sees it, and when something like that spreads, it's like a cancer. As someone at your rank, what do you tell your platoon, or what do you tell the guys to keep them forward and focused on training and
Well, like I said, overall I had really good luck with officers. The one I'm thinking of had a little less experience and we probably had a little more in common than I cared to admit. He was a little impetuous and would jump the gun um, at times. And I probably saw some of myself as a younger self in him.
of course,
So of course that pisses you off right off the
whenever you
bat.
see that. Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
so there was there were definitely some set downs where like hey, do not don't go talk to the boys without making sure
Yeah,
that you've kind
yeah.
of cleared it with me first. And of course, there are times where he was like,
Push
"Fuck you,
back.
Gunny. I'm going
Yeah,
to,
yeah, of
I'm in charge. I'm going to do what I'm going to do." And I mean, which is his
course.
right to do,
Yeah.
But I think after a time or two, he realized that yeah, there's probably a reason why this grumpy dude is trying to
Hey, at
protect
least
me from
you
myself.
realize, that's give him that. Okay. Another thing that's I think is significant, not only right now, but when I was when it comes to hazing and then good training for remediation. Talk to me about that line right there. Talk to me about hazing is something that is a problem in the Marine Corps. And I think it's changed over the years. I think they cracked down on it pretty heavily, and I don't really know what you would do now in the current state of the Marine Corps for remediation. But when you were in, talk to me about that line.
Yeah, when I was on the receiving end, I don't think there wasn't much of a line. Um, it was like you said, you were, as a young guy, I was, answering to a lance corporal, or a corporal,
Senior
rarely,
Lance.
you know, in especially when I was in the grunts, it was
Yep.
it was rarely anybody senior to that. My platoon sergeant was a staff sergeant, and you didn't talk to him,
No,
unless
of course.
and then above that, was you very rarely saw a gunny, and if you had to see a first sergeant or sergeant major, there was, you were in trouble. Um, so it was kind of whatever went. There weren't a lot of rules, especially I got into a sniper platoon very early in my career. So there was a considerable amount of hazing.
Mm.
I don't think that I did watch. I remember standing on the catwalk in at Pendleton as I think I was a lance corporal, watching two Marines get promoted to corporal, and the battalion. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was only the company, but I watched them line up and just pummel these dudes. And well, it was the blood
Blood
stripes.
stripe.
Yeah, that I mean, one of them had to get, kicked out of the Marine Corps medically. I mean, dude, motherfuckers
Oh,
couldn't
it's bad.
stand, and
It's
they, oh
bad.
yeah, I mean, they were like disabled, and that was, I remember just kind of watching that, and my platoon sergeant who was standing on the catwalk, one of the few times he talked to me, he's like, what the fuck,
Why?
these guys think they're doing? I mean, they're hurting, these are good Marines, and they're trying to fucking hurt them, and that was what being in the grunts was in the 80s.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, and it wasn't. So I think I learned a lesson there. And when I don't. I was in a smaller unit when I got corporal, and that's didn't happen. I mean, I got my chevrons punched in.
Hmm.
Um, I got gold wings. I got those beat in. Got branded at sniper school, and
Oh,
lots of
yeah.
things that that weren't um, you certainly wouldn't be kosher
Now, but at the end of the
nowadays.
day, does that make you feel like, I mean, as Marines, like we walk around, and we consider ourselves, I don't want to say better than the rest, but we earned it the hard way and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like whenever I was hazed or something like that, there was a reason for it. We learned from it, and I don't know. I felt like a lot of those times I grew stronger. And now, don't get me wrong, what you just detailed, I've seen that too. I've seen idiotic guys just hurting their people for no reason, and it's like, what are we doing here? But yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think that's the line that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think with later on as when I became a chief scout of a sniper platoon as a sergeant, I was kind of definitely in the lower end of the well, still at the lower end of the rank structure, but at the first time I had a significant amount of leadership responsibility, and I always thought back to that thing with the two corporals, and was
Oh, that stuck with you.
it did, yeah, it really did, because like I said, these were good Marines. One of them got booted out. The other one was, I think, not able to deploy,
Ugh,
because he was like they fucked their knees up. Um,
stupid.
so yeah, I think I took a little different tact with it. Um, I mean, absolutely, still some of the things that I would do would
Of
be
course,
frowned upon today.
of
But
course,
physical, I mean, there's no reason to physically assault
of
people,
course.
right? But taking them out and running them until they puke, I
That's
mean,
that's Marine
absolutely,
Corps, baby.
a lot of there were times where I didn't think things through, and I could have had somebody die, with lack of water or no
I hear you.
corpsman or safety vehicle or things of that nature. But especially out in 20 pounds, but we didn't die, and so Marines learned.
Yeah, that's
So I
exactly what
think
I'm talking about.
there's
Great
there's
example.
definitely I think with most things, the we go too far one way, and then we wind up going too far the other.
Absolutely. I hear that. So let's get into early days of MARSOC, man. Standing up the Marine rate. That's such a huge. Talk to me about early days Raiders. Talk to me
Yeah.
about what, please.
So yeah, the let's see, in 2001, like I think I mentioned before we started, but um, I'm a gunny. I'm a platoon sergeant for a Force Recon platoon. We're on deployment, sitting in a bar in Darwin, Australia,
Oof.
and 9/11 happens.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, we jumped on the boats, sailed pretty much not quite straight, but almost straight into Pakistan, and then flew into
Oh, you went right
Afghanistan.
into
So
country. Oh shit.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we were on the in Afghanistan by November. Um,
Oh, I
so
know that was
that
a gaggle fuck now. Everything.
Oh, it was. I mean, it was a complete gaggle fuck, but it is absolutely impressive to watch a
Everything come
Mew.
together. Yeah.
I mean and really the heroes that were the logisticians. Watching it's amazing watching them do their loadouts and figure out
Oh, absolutely.
that hey, we're going to need 2 pallets of shit paper, and then we're going to need uh, X amount of water, X
Yep.
amount of batteries, X amount of ammo, and
They
it
get they
just
get a bum rap, man, because that's the one of the most important gigs.
yeah, there's a saying that inexperienced tacticians discuss tactics and experienced tacticians discuss logistics. And I always thought that was bullshit until, then.
Living
And,
it.
yeah, yeah, watching them, kind of phase things aboard and um, it was pretty amazing. But, we had a successful time. We weren't there for just a couple months. We were out by shortly after the
What was
first
the
of
what was the can we talk about the mission at all, or what was the
Yeah, so we went in to seize the first fob, essentially. So
okay.
it's called Fob Rhino, and
Oh,
it was in the Helmand, um, in the southern, kind of towards southern part of the country, and we seized that, kind of built up forces, and then my platoons was tasked with doing a vehicle reconnaissance up to Kandahar.
oh
So
wow.
yeah, it was pretty badass. We took a couple hundred miles of off-roading, moving by night, holing up during the
Were
day.
you with the ANA or partnering forces?
No, no,
Okay,
there was no. So the SF was up in the mountains, kind of doing the horse soldier thing,
gotcha.
but for the most part, we were totally U.S. only. There were a couple of I think we had an SAS recce team with
Okay.
us, and some other cats and dogs were starting to roll in, but for the most part, it was just us with the MU.
Now is
Um,
IEDs a thing yet?
no, no. So not even, the word didn't even exist, I don't think. Um, the first mission, we were after the route reconnaissance. Me and my boys went and set up a vehicle blocking position on Highway 1. And
I know Highway One.
yeah, we had the first gunfight on Highway 1. So we wound up stopping a vehicle coming through that was packed full of Taliban and
Oh yeah.
RPG rockets and shot them up. And then called in air on another portion of the convoy that was kind of rolling in with a whole
Okay.
bunch of fighters. And that was December 7th of '01. And then shortly after that, we did a couple other things, but they wanted to get us back on track. And the
Hmm.
East Coast Mu, the 2.6 Mu, I think 2.4, I was getting confused. One of the East Coast Mus came in, and we headed out. So I was while this was happening, kind of unbeknownst to me, the Secretary of Defense had already told the U.S. military that we're going to need more special operations. So the Marine Corps was told, given the warning order, hey, you guys are going to participate this time.
Okay.
So 1987, when SOCOM was formed, the Marine Corps waved off and didn't play. Uh, this time they were told it was going to happen. So by the time we get back to the States in May or so, there were rumors, but I was also had the benefit, and me and my guys of coming, being the first you know, force platoon to have seen combat since the Gulf War.
Wow.
10 years earlier. So and to be honest, we thought the war was over, right? At that point, we're like, yeah, we fucked up some talibs,
Took care of it. Yeah.
everything's pretty much wrapped up. Um, so I had been at First Force for like 10 years at that point. And so they're like, dude, you've got to go somewhere. So I went to the SOTG, which is EOTG now, the
Oh,
Special
okay.
Operations Training Group,
Yep. Yep.
and ran the urban sniper and the urban reconnaissance courses.
Oh, cool.
So I was doing that for not even a year, and then the word finally came down for real that hey, we're going to form the Marine Corps is going to form a small, roughly 100-man detachment that's going to work for SOCOM. So, my boss or the guy who selected to run it was my boss at First Force, and then at First SOTG, came and grabbed me and said, "Hey, man, do you want to be a part of
Um,
this?" Like, yeah, yes, I do.
yeah.
So I was very, very fortunate and I was really kind of like the junior team leader. The other guys that were picked were dudes who were, a couple years senior to me. I
Okay.
had uh, I had just pinned on Gunny right before that deployment. In fact, September 1st, 2001. So I pinned it on right before September 11th. So the other guys were senior gunnies or master sergeants. And then we were really given the opportunity to pick, who we wanted
Oh,
on
that's
our
awesome.
teams. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, I wound up with I mean, all of us was a small, hand-picked, roughly a 30-man kind of force reconnaissance platoon sized unit, and then roughly the same size of an intel unit, and they
Okay.
they were doing the same thing. So they were picking like dudes from the NSA, dudes who were
Wow.
farmed out to different places. So we had, I mean, a shit hot intel
That's
section, and then the same across the board from the command and control, from communications and JTACs. Everybody was just out of the cream of the crop, which was good because we had nothing. We had no equipment, no place
Oh,
to
it was
live.
there. Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
yeah, for quite a while. No idea where we were deploying to, what our mission was going to be, and so we just, and this was early 2003 by this point. So the initial invasion of Iraq had already happened.
Gotcha. Okay.
So at this point, we realized the war is gonna keep going for a while.
Yep.
Um, so we, started getting equipment, started getting people, and just started training for. Still we were kind of unsure what for. Ultimately, we were tasked with uh, deploying with a SEAL
Okay.
kind of command and control, so under a SEAL task group, and we were treated as a task unit, so like a SEAL platoon
Okay.
plus. Um, so in '04, we deployed to Baghdad and were task unit Raider, and that was really we had a bunch of World War II Raiders come out, and they were like, "Hey, you guys
Oh
have
shit.
got, yeah, yeah, not to Iraq, but come out to visit
Oh
us."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, we want you guys to carry on the name." So that was, calling ourselves TU Raider, Task Unit Raider was really the
That's
first,
badass.
um, time that
Yeah, of
happened. And
course.
then, on the unit patch that we had, there was a Raider, small Raider patch on it. So it was a way to remember those Marines and everything that they did. So we ultimately had a very successful deployment. Came,
Can you talk about what's Iraq like at that point, man? What's the climate like? Maybe
yeah,
even
it was.
what's the fighting like, if you could?
It, yeah, very, very different. This was like Fallujah was going on, the Joff, kind of during the time we were there in '04. We arrived there with IFABs, Mercedes
Oh,
G-Wagons.
oh, no
I
shit.
mean, yeah, we did have
Oh,
some
they pimped
armor
you out.
plate,
Okay.
but yeah, they were worthless. So
Oh,
we
really?
basically used them to drive back and forth to Chow. Um, but we, at that point, their IEDs were starting to become a thing, but they were primarily command detonated.
Okay.
So we, um, or like radio, RF
What were you using
detonated.
as IED defeat at that point? What was
So we had just got some jammers,
okay.
in each vehicle that jammed the signal pretty effectively. So
Oh, cool. Okay.
what they were, a lot of them were um, command detonated. Some guy sitting in the bush with comm
Yeah.
wire,
Yeah.
hitting the button. So, but
Motorcycle.
but we were traveling with unarmed, no doors on the Humvees, unarmored, absolutely.
Oh,
We
sandbags.
put we had some sandbags on the floor, some old like flak jackets, um, but that wasn't. I mean, that wasn't really a huge concern. We found that by traveling like as fast as those Humvees would go at night, totally blacked out,
Gotcha.
and as close together
Yep.
as we could get. And it was on more than a couple of occasions, there would be this sleepy little sentry at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
wake up, smash the button, and there'd be an explosion behind us. But we were gone. Um, so we were tasked with going after HVTs
Okay.
essentially. So there were still quite a
Awesome mission.
few of the deck of cards dudes. And I think we got two or three of them.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, the a lot of the former regime element, generals and commanders and things of that nature, a lot of bomb makers. So we were doing just hit night after night after night, and a lot of that was enabled by all those intel dudes that I talked
So you
about.
got
So
solid intel. Yeah, you had to
we
have.
had, yeah, we had just incredible like human intel dudes that were, at this time. I mean, it's sounds silly now, but we had a human guy recruit a source, like stick a Garmin, like a little,
Oh wow.
you know, inside the car,
Yeah.
have the guy drive back and forth, and the battery would last for whatever it was, a couple days. So when the guy would have to get gas, he would like come back and we would swap it out, and then we would just start plotting points.
Okay.
Um, and ultimately we wound up, rolling up some heavy hitters. I mean that sort of stuff had just not been done before. The
Yeah. Absolutely.
technology that we have today to tag, track, and locate things like that just absolutely didn't exist.
Back
Um,
then, man, if you're rolling up an HVT, who are you passing it on to? You bringing it back to the fob, or is a Intel CIA there at that point?
So we would bring him back to the fob. We were also there during, like initially we had our own detention center. So we would have like first crack at him for like 72 hours, 96, and then we would take him to Abu Ghraib and drop him
Yeah.
off.
Oh wow.
And that was like right, while we were there was when the Abu Ghraib
Oh, that
scandal.
happened then. Okay.
Yeah, well, it came to light. I guess it had been happening,
Oh, of
but
course.
it broke while we were there, and so that was like shut down
Can't go
for a
there anymore.
while. Now, and then it depended though. It depended. Some of the folks that we would come back with would there'd be somebody in a explorer or an expedition or whatever waiting, and
Oh,
grab them,
oh.
throw them in, and they
Yep.
would take off. Sometimes we would have kind of first right of refusal to question them.
Did
Um,
you have solid terps?
We did. We had our primary Terp was an American who
Oh,
had escaped during the first time when
yep.
Saddam came to power. Was like a radio disc jockey, had like
Oh, really?
a show for kind of catered towards Iraqi
Okay.
refugees and things. Just a guy loved his country, but also loved America.
Yeah.
Really hated kind of obviously everything that had been going on. So he was, and
Kind of
it
like
just
a patriot for his country.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and had no desire to carry a gun, do anything. He was just like, "Hey, man, tell me who you need me to talk to."
I feel like that's
Um,
so important because they can at that point they can translate shit the wrong way that gets you to make the wrong decision. Maybe if they have a bias, you don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, some of the local terps, you really couldn't be sure when you were
Absolutely.
using them. One of the first mission that we actually did in country, talking about terps, was one of the Intel Marines discovered through just like trying to make shit happen, right? They were just, it was the location that we were put at in Baghdad really had not had a team operating it. So
Proactive. Yeah.
we didn't have, guys handing target folders over, a turnover really of anything. So they discovered that somewhere the number was like 15 or 16 Terps had been executed over a span of several months. And nobody had put the pieces together because it was kind of all over Iraq.
Oh, okay.
But this guy, sat down and did like a link analysis and was like, hey, all of these 17 dead Terps have, one person in common.
Oh shit.
And yeah, and so the first mission that we did, in country, I led it. I mean, we'd been there like a week or two. We're told, jump into cities in a absolutely unarmored, Iraqi sedan, and we're gonna take off and go find this Terp, and the Terp was a chick. So yeah, yeah. So of
Like a
course,
local?
yeah, yeah, she was a local Terp, and she had been used for doing a lot of like office work, not doing
Okay.
like translating paperwork and things like that.
Okay.
So because it's a female, we have to have a female. So the
Course,
only
of course.
female operator that's can be found is a Polish,
At that
uh,
time, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Polish Grom chick, Kate, Kate had killed more motherfuckers than brain cancer. Man, Kate was just
Oh,
like
man.
a
Savage, huh?
super hot, lethal chick. Um, she went with us. We had a SEAL. Guy, SEAL went with us and wound up just driving all over the greater Baghdad area, to find this chick. And she just, she worked here, but she left a week
Damn.
ago and she was here. And I keep, getting on the sat phone and calling back, and I'm like, just let us keep going. And they're like, and I mean, you guys are are getting, getting a little far out. I'm like,
Shaking
just
trees. Yeah.
let me let me just go like to the next place. And finally we find a place where she actually had just been, she'd left like a week before. And I asked him like, hey, can you call her back and tell her you've got some work for her to do?
Oh,
And they
perfect.
did. She showed up, about 2 hours later with a guy who was driving her, and he was armed. So when he tried to pull into the army, a small army outpost. Um, they found a 1911 on him, but it was an old ass
Okay.
1911. It was a Remington Rand. I remember it was made by the Remington.
You don't see
You know
those often.
the No, no. I mean it was like a early World War II. So where the gun, where it came from, nobody really knows.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it was so he was packing, which is not really unusual either. But we wind up, Kate like tunes the lady up, bags her, and that's when you can still like throw bags on
Oh
people's heads.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Stuffs her in the car. We take her back to our detention facility along with the guy and his pistol, and
This pistol.
it becomes somehow I don't think he ever got that back. Um, but it became pretty quickly apparent that she was the person responsible for all these deaths, but she was like unwittingly responsible. So
Oh, someone
this,
was you.
yeah, so she was totally used. So this dude who was probably like too good looking of a, for her,
Oh, it was like
hit on
that.
her.
It was like that.
Yeah, it was like a honey pot, but in reverse.
But the opposite way. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
Honey dick operation.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so she, um, he's like, hey, I want to hire some Terps. Can you just give me the names of and addresses of some of your friends or whatever? And so she hands over like the company recall roster, and they just, send people out to start, clipping these guys. So
Wow.
she was pissed, obviously. The saying like hell has no fury like a woman
Yeah, yeah.
scorned. Like
Facts.
she
Facts.
was fucking pissed. So she was like, I'll give you whatever info you need. Um,
Wow.
Plus, she was also like, understood that she had been, kind of unwittingly
Yeah,
responsible
yeah.
for a whole bunch of deaths. So she like pointed out, on the map where he lived and then where his and he was married, which she found that
He's
out,
married? Oh
pissed
my
her
God.
off some more. Um, where his business was very close to his house. So the first kind of assault that we did was, went out like that night or the next night, hit his house. Half of the guys hit his house. I went and hit his workplace,
Hard knocks.
and yeah, they rolled him up. Inside he had bomb making stuff, cash, pretty much anything,
Wow. Yeah.
hard drives. And so he just had tons of
Alib?
we gathered now this is in Iraq. So
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yep.
so then we were able to take all of that, start process all that information, and then just build a
Case.
uh
Gotcha.
target list that kept us pretty busy for the next 7 months or so.
So was the higher ups happy with you about that when that came together?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Looked
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, it did. And then after that, like we were just almost every night, we were rolling out the gate and bringing in.
That's such a
Uh,
fun deployment, huh? Just
oh,
being able to do that.
it was. We got about halfway into it, we got pulled away um, because they had just formed the interim Iraqi government. So
Oh,
the first, up until 2004, the U.S. or the coalition was in charge of Iraq.
gotcha.
In 2004, they're like, hey, we've got to appoint some people to
Take
put
care.
an
Yeah,
Iraqi face right
of
on
course.
this so that they can do the elections,
Yeah.
ultimately. And so we got tasked with running the security detail for the
No
vice
way.
president. Yeah.
God.
So it was, and it was he was a Kurd, the dude that we had.
Yeah,
So
okay.
like everybody wanted to kill the Kurd. There was not a lot of love
No love for the current.
for
Yeah.
Kurds, and he had been he had like fought against Saddam,
Gotcha.
back in the day. So he was a
Crazy time.
really good guy, and wound up kind of staying in the Iraqi government for quite a while until he died, but of natural causes, I think, later. But so we did that for a while, and then the other big, other than doing direct action stuff, was Najaf. I got sent with a bunch of snipers when that was kicking off, and we
Wow.
just went up and spent a couple weeks just getting busy.
Sorry about that. My dog is killing me right now. Um, talk to me about adversity over there. Dealing with something maybe that you weren't expecting and how you dealt with something like that.
Um, it was, I mean, for me, it was absolutely what I had trained for and wanted kind of my whole life. Um, so it was, and absolutely when you're surrounded by guys that you trust with your life, that changes things
Goes
quite
a
a
long
bit.
way.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there was a time. But one, I think we stayed humble, where we never thought that, hey, we're too good. But we thought we're pretty fucking good. So we had confidence in ourselves and our capabilities, and so, I mean, it was the funnest deployment I've ever been on. I mean, it was, it was.
The way you describe it, how your team, how when you just know your team is the shit. It's just
Mhm.
everything when you see it all come together from training, you guys are with each other so long. And when you're in country and you're doing the damn thing, when you see it all come together, it's just explain
Yeah,
that.
it's almost I've written about it and I talk about it some in the book that it's really comes down to geometry. Like when you jump out of the vehicle and that, like, instinctually, because you've done it thousands of times. Like here's, there's 20 places that somebody could shoot at me from.
Mm,
My job is to, you know, put myself in a position where I cut that down to maybe 10 and then, figure out what the most likely one is and pick up
yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I know that all the dudes behind me are like, all right, he's got that, I've got this, I've got this, and just cutting down angles. Um, and when you do that, it is a marvelous thing to see. And and I maybe, it's been what, 20 years now. So
Oh
I might
wow.
be like, old man, I might be like glamorizing things a little bit. I mean, there are absolutely times I was scared off off my ass. There are absolutely times when I expected to get like popped in
Yeah.
the brain bucket any minute. But, for
I
the
think that's
most
good.
part, I mean, I think we were given the leeway to plan our missions and really, especially at that time. I mean, later on there were the people started getting smarter, and IED in the entryway and things like that. We very
ETPs,
easily could have
SOPs
been,
changing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, but at that time, I mean, we were, like I said, we were rolling in with um,
That's wild.
just no, no,
Bareback
no,
Humvees.
no doors on the Humvees. Almost everybody had either a saw or a 240.
Gotcha.
Just like pentals
How
on
many
the
trucks were you running?
probably. It would vary from time to time, but about eight or so.
Oh,
So we
okay.
were relatively small. Yeah. Um, and then later and we were, when we, like I said, we went over with the IFABs, the G Wagons, realized that those would only hold four people.
Yeah.
I mean, they were, with any sort of kit or anything like that, and then putting somebody on a cruiser weapon,
Yep,
you
yep.
really cut down what you could do. So we use those largely to like drive to chow and shuttle things around.
Little stuff.
But we got a bunch of decrepit Humvees that are the mechs that we had did like an amazing job
Oh,
of
they fixed them up.
getting them running at least. Welding their own
I love that right there. How
like
with Marines we get shitty stuff, and somehow we make it just beyond operational. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, we started with the high backs throwing,
Okay.
welding some steel on
Yep.
those and things. But uh, part of the way through the deployment, I think actually it was right about the time we got the PSD mission. The SOCOM sent over a bunch of the new soft Humvees.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit wider wheelbase, a little bit longer, and they were
Are
obviously
are
armored.
you free gunning in those?
Um, Not, I mean, you had a Pentel and
Yeah.
everything.
Yep. 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 So what I'm saying is that it's open up top though, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you were right, and it wasn't
Enclosed. Yeah.
no, yeah, absolutely. You were that, yeah. The dude on the gun was absolutely exposed.
Were you did you get any to any ticks with on mounted on the trucks?
Uh, only I think only one, and it was just a vehicle, a vehicle coming at us that refused to stop coming at
Yeah.
us until
Yeah.
the 50 cal, gave them a good reason to.
Hey, how are you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think we wound up. I know I've got the number somewhere, but I think and sometimes it was, multiple buildings that we'd hit in a night from target to target to target, but I think well over 100, raids that we did in the
Wow.
span of like 100 and probably 200 days.
You guys are ripping
Um,
and moving. Okay.
Just, but we only had, inside the house shots fired once. And that was, I mean, we credit that to just, surprise and
Yeah.
violence of action,
Yep. 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 Of course.
And the time that we did, we were going after a former regime general. He was one of the deck of cards guys. And we honestly, somebody was like, hey, this old dude is gonna, not gonna put up a fight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember somebody, it was our commander's Lieutenant Colonel Craig Kaczynski just stopped the conversation right then. He's like, "Hey, motherfuckers." He's like, "Never fucking say that. Never say it's going to be easy. Never say that,
Hey,
like we go into every one of these, like it's your last day on
of
earth."
course.
And going in, there was an issue on the door with the breach, and the breacher got hurt, um,
Shit.
and which
IED.
gave no, it was there was when he placed the breach and started backing off. A chunk of the breach was cut in
Oh.
half. Half of it like pulled off the door, stuck on him. Um,
Oh.
yeah, right on his
Oh
ribs, basically.
jeez.
His A breacher, who would have seen that, was like moving something off the door.
Gotcha.
Uh, Propane tank was kind of getting that out of the way, so it didn't detonate. So when he detonated it, half of the charge blew on him, which wasn't great. So he went down. The door was still there, and that all of that just gave the guy inside time. And then so by the time we got another um, charge on the door,
Yeah, yeah.
blew it.
So,
That guy had come out of bed. He was downstairs
yeah.
shooting
Oh
through the
shit.
door.
Yeah.
Got one of our corpsmen in the calf, and we wound up uh, going in, smoking him, and then kind of wrapping
Maybe
things
no
up.
choice. Yeah.
That was the only two guys that we had injured, and the only hit that we did that had any rounds
Gotcha.
fired back at us. And it was not uncommon to pull a dude out of bed who's, just kind of trying to figure out what was going on, and, with a pistol under his pillow or an AK, right beside him.
Perfect.
We just found that, as fast as you can be,
Yeah,
man,
absolutely.
speed is security.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to me about coming home, man, because, I know it's a touchy subject, but right now a lot of GWOT guys are dealing with PTSD, with suicide is rampant in our community. I don't think it's talked about enough, but I mean, I don't think we really know how to combat it to a certain degree. I mean, but I think conversations are imperative, and guys like us need to talk about it to try to find ways to deal with it. I mean, I know I've dealt with it. I think I've lost more guys back here than I did in combat.
Mm.
What's your opinion on that stuff?
Yeah, I don't. I talk about it a lot, right? I talk about it with guys, on podcasts and things, and I absolutely don't have any answers. I also did, I did an Afghan deployment, I did an Iraq deployment and retired. So, I'm not a guy that had, six, seven, eight, deployments in places that were, really ugly.
Gotcha.
I mean, I have friends that have and friends that were there. So I don't know, man. I mean, it boggles my mind. I mean, um, I think part of it, when I retired, and not saying that, my generation was better or whatever. We just
No, of
were
course.
stupider, maybe, but there was no way in hell that when I retired that I was going to claim that, I had PTSD. It was just like the stigma about it then was
Bad. Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
And it was just starting to be. I think people were realizing, hey, you can claim this and get a bunch of money. So, um, whether you
Right. Right.
and
That's
they were
bad right now. Yeah, you're right.
it was and everybody who has PTSD and gets a VA rating for it, deserves it and absolutely ought to get it. I think there are probably people that are
Of
you
course.
know milking the
Work in the
system.
system. Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? I don't know. I think one of the things I've been thinking about lately, and I've been trying to make sense of it, man, because it is uh, it at first, in the earlier years, it seemed like it didn't really touch like the recon guys that I knew or the special operations guys, and I equated that to, I think there's, when you're on a team when you are in a position where you know more about what's going on. I mean, usually you're a little more
Oh, yep.
senior.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, you probably have a little more belief in your mission and the guys around you and all of those things. All of those, I think, can help
Their factors
prevent,
matter. Yeah.
right? But I mean, now that's not the case anymore. There are
Yeah.
lots of,
Yep.
recon Marines, special operations guys, SEALs, Raiders, Green Berets. I mean, across the spectrum.
Fortunately.
Um, I don't know. One of the things I do think, and like I said, I still work on base, and I was walking around in the PX in the gym, all over. There's every piece of wall that doesn't have something on it. There's a poster, about all of the help and
Health.
things
Yeah.
like that. And I do think that it's also fucking okay to be okay. I think
I
that
hear you. I
sometimes
hear you.
sometimes that gets missed. If guys that need help, absolutely. If you don't know, and I kind of, the raising awareness about veteran suicide. I mean, if you're a fucking veteran, you don't need awareness raised. You fucking know that a lot of motherfuckers are committing suicide.
Facts.
You know, raising awareness in the civilian sector, I don't know what that's going to do.
Exactly.
I think a lot of times it's become you gotta just like, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I'm whatever. I'm going to go hike the Appalachian Trail to, raise awareness for veteran suicide, or I'm going to do something that I want to tell you about anyway. But if
Oh,
as
don't
long
get
as
me
I,
going about that.
as
Yeah.
long as I, as long as I say it's for veteran suicide, then it's okay. Right? I'm
And
not,
post it on Instagram. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I probably post more shit on Instagram than I should, but I think there's a lot of that, and I think that. When there've been studies, not necessarily with veterans, but when we publicize the hell out of bad things, you publicize the hell out of a school shooting, there's going to be more school shootings,
Yeah. Just turn
right?
on
You
the news. Right.
publicize
Yeah.
the hell out of veteran suicide,
Yep.
there's
Right.
more veterans are going to see it as a viable option.
Weird how that works.
And I mean, fuck, it's a shitty option, right?
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
permanent option.
Yeah.
So I, I, I don't know. I was telling somebody the other day, the entire 21 years that I was on active duty, I knew one Marine that killed himself, and uh, he was like a horrible, horrible gambler and owed
Oh.
a lot of people a lot of money. So that was,
Oh,
the way
poorly.
that he saw out of it. But that was 21 years, one guy. And since I've retired, I absolutely know a dozen easily that have taken their life, and I don't know. I mean, I wish there was a way to stop it, or I wish there was something I could do. Something that we could definitively do. But I don't know. It boggles my mind.
It's too bad too, man, because a lot of, I hear what you're saying completely, but sometimes I've had a couple that I had no idea, like it didn't make sense at all. And that kind of bothered me, man, because it's like I was close with these individuals. Like I would think they would reach out to me, you know what I mean? And that really confuses me a lot because what could be so bad? And then again, hey, listen, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
be sitting on my high horse and say, that's selfish or that, you shouldn't have done that. But it's once again, what can we do? It's
yeah. I don't know. I mean, hopefully somebody will figure it out. But
yeah.
yeah, it's I mean happening far far too much.
I think, in a way, these podcasts are good because it's getting us talking as a community. I feel like that's something we don't do as much. I mean, in the veteran community, it's almost like the only, and I'm a bit younger than you, so Instagram, social media is prevalent in my life, and the only time you see veterans is like hating each other in the comments or talking shit about each other on Instagram, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like
Yeah,
there's so many problems as community. Why are we, doing stupid stuff like that when we could be trying, attempting to come together and maybe fixing something as a community? I don't know. I'm just trying
yeah.
to think outside the
I
box.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I was on Black Rifle
Yep.
Coffee
Yep.
did a little video talking about that one, and yeah, reading through of course I did, say that the Marine Corps was the I didn't understand how anybody who'd not been a Marine like couldn't be sad about their life choices, but yeah, I just getting burned the hell down in the comment section,
Yeah, of
which is
course.
is fine with me, but you
You
know,
know
yeah,
what I'm saying,
it's
though. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we love doing that, but yeah, I think we'd probably make a little more headway if we would, you know, kind of come together as veterans.
When what
And
would that even look like? Like I don't know. I
uh,
feel like the Marine Corps was so organized, and they had. I wish I knew about more things while I was in that. Because when you get out or when you EAS, you're so focused on getting out, you don't think about all the little things that you should be doing to get ready to get out. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I know there's been some attempts, since your time to do a better job of that. And there are, I work with one of the groups I work with is called the Honor Foundation
Oh,
that's
yep.
primarily caters to soft guys. And, being honest, I mean, soft dudes get a lot more uh,
I don't want to say
love,
it. I don't want to
love
say
in a lot of cases.
it.
Although they also go out and raise the money to,
Facts.
fund
Facts.
this thing. But it's I'm a coach for them, so
Oh, cool.
and they have campuses
Oh, that's awesome.
all over the country, and so they put you through essentially like a little mini MBA. I saw you had Randall
Yep.
on
Yep.
uh, pretty recently. He was
Awesome, dude.
Honor Foundation vet, and that just if the Marine Corps could mimic something like that, because it's mostly soft dudes, but or MARSOC dudes
Yeah,
and
yeah.
gals, but you've got logistics folks in there, you've got people from all over that get the opportunity to attend, and so you have a pretty solid, and a lot of them are retiring, but not all, but you have a pretty solid cohort of people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, and you're sitting down and talking with these people
Getting like-minded
every
people together. Yeah, that
yeah,
helps. Yeah,
and then you leave with everybody's contact info, and
that does help. Stuff
so
like that
they
does help.
they help not only build in that community, but also with whatever comes next. So there's uh, a community of people. If you want to go into real estate, then
Okay.
you can just be like, hey man, who's in real estate? Can I
Different
come?
avenues. Oh, that's
So
Randall.
that's helpful. Yeah,
Yeah,
trying to do that on a
larger scale.
much larger scale would be really challenging, but it would be valuable.
Beneficial. Yeah. So, to kind of close it up, man. I mean, we talked a little bit about politics, talking about it. Just think about the current climate right now, and think about the guys that are in. I talked to a lot of them, and they're confused. They don't know what to think because what's in the news, Israel, this, what are we fighting for? If you could talk to maybe the guys that are in the trenches, man, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely confusing. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I'm been at my job, kind of still within MARSOC for almost 18 years, and I'm confused as hell.
Yeah,
Um, but I do think that the nation is going to call on the military
absolutely.
again, and it's probably going to be more important than it's ever been.
Yes.
When we do. I think there's a lot of kind of stray voltage, going around. But when we look at real, present threats, peer threats, we're potentially looking at, something the likes of which,
Yes.
none of us have seen, nobody's seen since
Absolutely.
WW2 potentially.
Absolutely.
So, it's if I mean if you're in, you join for a reason, and it's to serve your country. So you owe it to the guys on your left and right to prepare every day. Ask yourself
Stay ready.
look in the mirror, every night and say, have I become a better warfighter, today? What have I done? And maybe
Love it.
that's just time in the gym. Maybe that's learning something. Maybe that's reading a book. Maybe that's doing gun drills or whatever.
Yep.
But if you're not becoming a better war fighter every day, then you
What are
probably
we
need to
doing?
ask yourself what you're doing.
Absolutely. So maybe stay focused on what you can control and
Absolutely.
stay ready. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's one of my huge, and I think Randall actually said it on that your podcast with him. And control what you can control,
Yep. Yep.
and then try to minimize all of the things that you can't control. And
Absolutely.
then you've got to write those ones off.
Absolutely. That's all we can do. Now, would you like to talk about anything you got going on? I know you have a couple little, I forget what they're called.
Yeah, newsletters that I
Yes,
write. So I've got
yes.
the book Tough Rugged Bastards. You can get on Amazon, or I think most Barnes and Nobles and things have them. Um, but yeah, I write a couple of weekly newsletters. One's called Walking Point. That's really just me looking back and thinking how we can translate military planning into our lives. Right? Sometimes, you might well, if you've been in the military more than a couple days, so, military planning isn't always all it's cracked up to be. And I think the process is good. We just always don't do it right. But there's a lot of it that translates into, how we can be the best that we can be. And then the other's called Ruck the Fuck Up. And it's, largely about rucking, but really more about mental toughness and
So important.
how we get better. And all of those are on my websites, jadaily.com. You can check them out there, sign up.
Awesome. Well, I think we can put a bookmark there. John, I appreciate it. I'd love to have you on again, and Semper Fi, man. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, Super Fi. Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Take care.